worker that gets it, but is also a business owner. And how rare are they? Pretty rare. Andrew has kind of popped onto the scene. We actually are both the class of 2001. He's a person living in long-term recovery. I am as well. And so is Greg Williams, 2001. It was a good year.
Good year.
So he really, he gets it, and he gets how frustrating it can be sometimes when we know in our hearts what works, because we see it. We see it with the students that we work with, we see it with young people, we see it with their families, and we just have to figure out a way to put it down on paper and to get it out into the journal so that we can get some support to really move it to the next level. The ARS Philanthropist of the Year Award recognizes outstanding financial contributions to the recovery field through the advancement of research. Andrew Burki is not only the CEO of Life of Purpose Treatment Centers, a macro-level social worker, and a person living in long-term recovery. He understands the enormous impact that empirical research could have on this field if we were adequately resourced. Last fall, Andrew had given over $250,000 to universities and nonprofits to conduct recovery research. He has also pledged $1 million to young people in recovery over the course of the next couple of years, which he's already begun to bring to fruition. I asked Andrew why he's so supportive of research, especially youth-focused research. And he said, and I quote, "This is where it's at." Imagine. You're going to do it so much better than I can do it. I couldn't sell that one, sorry. Imagine what we could do with our country if we supported recovery at the same level we support cancer research. Think of all the Greg Williams, the Justin Luke Rileys, and the other young people we could cultivate through education and research at a very early age. We have to invest in our youth. We have to give them another way to live and thrive as productive members of society. Andrew, thank you so much for your faith in the recovery field, your hard work. And please come accept this gift, this award, as just a small, humble token of our thanks.
Hello. My name is Andrew. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm a macro-level social worker. I'm the CEO of Life of Purpose. And on the person in long-term recovery scene, what that means for me is that I have been completely abstinent since December 5th, 2001. Exciting if I didn't have to say it in front of a room with members of the Jedi Council of Old-Timers. So, Peter's here, picked up like 29, I don't even know where you are, Peter. Over there, oh, there he is. Just picked up 29, so one more year, Peter. One more year, and me and Kristen will have half as much time. And of course, Director Botticelli, AKA the drug czar of America, AKA the recovery czar, AKA Yoda himself. So it really is, though, in all seriousness, it is humbling to be in the presence of so many just amazing people, government officials and researchers. It's actually incredibly difficult to get up and talk about anything of substance after we just had like brilliant doctor after brilliant doctor get up and steal the lines. And I was like, oh, never doubt what a small group of dedicated people know. That one's out. Let's talk about silence and communities. That one's gone. Oh my God, it's so hard. But research, research at its core is about asking questions and coming up with solutions, right? And so really, the questions that we have to ask are, first of all, can we actually solve the substance use disorder problem in America? And then, what's it going to take to do that? And, how are we going to go about implementing that solution, if that is actually even a possibility, right? And those are the sort of questions that we need to be asking. Spoiler alert, the solution involves a lot of zeros and commas, but it's going to happen because it has to happen. Because the other question that we have to ask is, can we afford not to, right? When we're talking about substance use disorder, and this is a completely bipartisan issue, right? Because we're talking about something that is the worst public health crisis in the United States probably since the Spanish flu, right? In like the early 1900s. Even if we're not hyperinflating the numbers, right, to get to our one person dying every 4 minutes, and we're counting like sugar and diabetes and addictions like that, even if we're not hyperinflating the numbers, we're still talking about someone dying, at a rate of 1 every 10 minutes or slightly faster. And from an economic impact standpoint, I mean, even for the fiscal conservatives, we're talking about something that has an economic impact of $600 billion per year. $600 billion. That is, I mean, just to wrap your head around that number, that means the economic impact of substance use disorder in America annually is greater than the gross domestic product of probably 50 to 75% of the countries, sovereign nations in the world. Their entire gross domestic product is not as much as we lose by not properly addressing substance use disorder in this country. So it's insane that we're not doing this. And when you're talking about something on that scale, that is literally burying children every single day, dozens and dozens of children and emerging adults. It's just like a parade of funerals is what's happening because we're not addressing this problem. Like, that's worth putting hundreds of millions of dollars into. That's worth putting billions of dollars into. And I would actually submit that we simply just cannot continue to not do that, right? We should have recovery high schools everywhere. They should be everywhere. There should be thousands of them, right? And from a not even just from a treatment standpoint and an aftercare standpoint, but from a prevention standpoint, right? I went to a absolutely horrific adolescent treatment program in Western Samoa, a WASP program that I was at in '97. I overdosed 5 days after I turned 17, and I spent a year in Western Samoa literally being beaten and locked in wooden boxes. I'm not exaggerating. And when I got back, I relapsed within 3 hours because I went right back to the same high school system. I mean, it literally 3 hours after a year of inpatient treatment, and I was back to the races. And from a prevention standpoint, from a harm reduction standpoint, it wasn't good for the other kids. I'm going to tell you something about me in high school, right? I did a lot of drugs, and you know what happened to everyone around me? Everyone that had even peripheral interaction with me, they did a lot of drugs too, because I have a substance use disorder, and as a direct result of that, we don't really talk about substance use disorders being contagious, but not treating a child is going to cause problems for the children in that child's sphere of influence every single time. So, you set up a recovery high school, you take 25 kids out of the school system that are doing, cocaine and heroin at 15, 16 years old. They're no longer in that school, and the entire school of 2,000 kids is going to do better as a direct result of that. But we have to research that, and we have to publish that data, because until we do that, we're not equipping the people that we have that are our recovery allies in the government, the people that we have these institutions of higher education, and the people that we have that are really fighting this out on the front lines, the social workers, and other disciplines like mental health counselors. No, I'm just kidding, my wife is the nemesis. But if we're not equipping those people properly, how can we expect them to succeed when the task is so daunting? And it's going to happen. I mean, sooner or later, it has to happen. We're going to get legislation through to support recovery research and support recovery high schools and support the recovery advocacy movement, right? Because we know that kids do better when they're involved in these long-term support services and peer support services and get involved in their own empowerment, involved in their own advocacy, and they do much, much, much better in higher education, right? So I'm from the substance use disorder treatment industry. Obviously we do stuff different at Life of Purpose, and we're on a campus, and we send every single kid we can possibly get our hands on into college as soon as possible and provide support services for them there. But beyond that, YPR is massively, massively important and critical for young adults. We should have, we've got like 80 chapters or something now, and we should have thousands. There should be a chapter in every single city, because it's not only is it the right thing to do and the better thing, it's the cheaper thing to do. It's really expensive, right? Where people are like, oh my gosh, recovery is so expensive. No, relapse is expensive. Having to go back to treatment 30 times, right? Or like for myself, I spent 3 years of my life in inpatient treatment. Just, here you go, here's treatment. Oh, you relapsed again, let's go back to treatment, right? And then they provide good treatment, but there's no aftercare support services. There's no bridge to education, right? I have my master's in social work from Florida Atlantic University, which I'm very, very proud of, because I didn't graduate from high school. I have a GED, and that obstruction for me to get to higher education was devastating for me, because everyone else in my family that doesn't have a substance use disorder is really, really successful academically. I got a brother that went to Georgetown, one of them's currently at Oxford, my mom went to Harvard Med, my dad went to MIT, and I went to rehab in South Florida, right? And call people that hate themselves on the phone, just calling up all people, telling them how much they hate themselves every single day. And, and we're like, why isn't he happy? Like, it doesn't seem like, he's really like getting it. And it's like, yeah, because I knew by any objective measurement that I was a loser, right? It wasn't like I felt like a loser. Like, objectively speaking, by the measurements that we use to assess whether young people are succeeding in life or actively failing at it, I was actively failing at it, even in recovery, even in early recovery. So, by providing these support services, and you look at it, right? Like I said, the substance use disorder treatment industry is a $35 billion a year industry that produces a 10% success rate. That is atrocious. It is completely unacceptable that is the situation that desperate families in their moment of greatest desperation, are experiencing. And the converse of that, the collegiate recovery communities are producing staggering success rates, right? Penn State, not only do I know anecdotally that their collegiate recovery program is phenomenal, because I watched a kid come out of it, my team actively recruited him, he is our director of technology, and I'm every single day witnessing him eclipse my own recovery, right? He's getting it faster, better, he's stronger in his recovery than I was at a comparable age or a comparable amount of time. He's in the room, it's Jimmy Hatzel, right there. That little guy who's super bright red. And that's a product of the collegiate recovery system. And this is a guy that runs technology for a multi-million-dollar business at this point. And we trust him, which is insane. We trust him with large sums of money. So you got that going on. And then the flip side of that is you have people coming out of these standard models where it's like, oh, go get a job at Taco Bell, you focus on your recovery. And we wonder why, when people are making chalupas, they continuously relapse and have to go back to treatment. It's just like we just can't wrap our head around it, which is baffling to me. And you look at the stats on it. I mean, the stats on the very limited data that is available is, it's just unprecedented. It's mind-blowing. Most of the collegiate recovery communities that require longer periods of time are producing 90% plus success rates, right, or in that range. Penn State's taking people down as early as 90 days in recovery and is still pushing an 87% success rate. 87%. Taking people down as low as 90 days. I mean, they're not even out of inpatient treatment at a lot of institutions. A lot of institutions that I've personally attended take significantly longer than that just to be like, okay, we're integrating you back into the real world in the most minimal way possible. With still at just a slightly lower level of care. So you have systems like that, and how are we not putting millions and millions and millions, tens of hundreds of millions of dollars into creating that at every single academic institution in this country, right? There's 4,000 colleges, somewhere in that neighborhood, and there's 150 collegiate recovery communities, and that's really only because of transforming youth recovery. That's because of Transforming Youth Recovery, just running around with a shotgun full of money. So here's $10,000, go start a collegiate recovery community. If it crashes and burns, no worries. School down the street, hopefully they'll be able to raise some funding. I mean, that's really, we had like 10 years ago, we had like 5 in the country, right? So, 15 years ago. So you're looking at this system, you're looking at all of these changes, these shifts that are taking place, and like I said, I mean, it's gonna happen one way or the other, but if we can communicate, if we can do the things that, that these researchers are talking about and empower the researchers to get us the data, to leverage the data, to go get the legislation passed and get the financial support that is necessary to actually implement a solution to substance use disorder in this country, then and we're going to be able to change the world, right? And we can wait it out, because we got powerhouses coming down both sides of the aisle, right? Senator Raybold's in here somewhere, I don't know where he is, over there. How's it going? Look forward to donating to your campaign. Senator Torino, right? We'll donate to your campaign too. The CFO is a staunch Republican. So, so get that going on. Yes, majority right over there. You guys should meet. Poulos is over here, right? Interesting on the last one, Senator Poulos here, he is probably not the first American senator to commit a drug-related felony, but he is the first one to do it before elected to office, like 10 years from now. So that's going to be impressive when that goes off, because he's really, he's really like, I mean, that's a guy who's like the face of prison reform in America, right? Which is a whole separate, tangential thing. But I mean, that's important too, and that's what Dr. Finch was talking about. We need to get everyone together and everyone on board with this. And I go to all these things. I support things. And really, like, when I say I'm speaking for like the larger group, right? Because I get to get up and get the award, but nothing of substance happens from like a single person, right? I have this amazing team of people, and everyone's like, oh, you're amazing, you're accomplishing these things. I'm like, yeah, because there's like 60 of me. Like, obviously I don't do all of this stuff, by myself, and like pull these things off. And it's like, it's so cool to be a part of it, but like, this is really where it's at. I mean, this is where it's at. It's the research. It is getting the research and empowering, the legislation and the advocates to go and actually change the way things are done, right? I was at the Unite to Face Addiction rally and supported that, and the Association of Recovery and Higher Education conferences and supported that, and all of these things, and they're fantastic, right? And they've got great slogans, and and I love Greg and Jim, and they're amazing and brilliant, and the day the silence ends, it's incredible. But it's not, it's not really the day the silence ends. I mean, that's a much better slogan than the day the conversation continues with a slightly more optimistic voice inflection, right? Just doesn't understand. Like, this has been going on for a long time. Like, we've been fighting this out for a long time, and like, we're finally getting there. We are finally getting there. I mean, and 2016 is going to be amazing. We need to keep doing this. We need to keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. And if we do that, and if we really are able to do that, then it'll get better. And if we're not, I mean, we're just going to be in the same situation that we keep finding ourselves in year after year after year after year. And I just don't find that to be acceptable. I really don't. I mean, this is America. Like, if we can't solve substance use disorder, if we can't address a problem that is leaving, destroyed families, across every socioeconomic spectrum, across every racial and religious group. I mean, it does not discriminate. And if we can't step up and solve this, I mean, what are we doing, right? So for all of you guys that have really, put in the work and been grinding it out, and since before I was sober, some of you since before I was alive, I just turned 35, so I know there's a couple of you in here that's been fighting this out, pushing 4 decades. I am so grateful, and the people that are coming after me that really are doing it younger, faster, better than I do, and that's the goal, right? And Jimmy's amazing, and Ben Jones is down for finals, Sarah Baba that's over here that came in at 19, and is like running our operations for our company. Now, they're incredible people, right? They're incredible individuals, but they're not even the apex, right? I mean, we're gonna get one of these kids that goes to a recovery high school at like 15, that's gonna have 20 years when they're my age. You know, and they will be a senator. You know, they will be, you know, massively successful, or, you know, CEOs, you know, senior partners in law firms and doctors, and it's all available if we provide the right support services. So, you know, like I said, I'm so grateful for everyone. I'm so grateful for everyone showing up, and you know, and we'll do this again next year, and we'll do it again the year after that, and we'll keep doing it until it breaks, because it has to break. Someone, somewhere, has to suit up and show up and get $1 billion for the recovery advocacy movement and the recovery research movement. It has to happen. It is the only way this is going to change. Thank you.